Welcome to the Business Men and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Alston, and it is my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. I am so excited to once again be on a podcast with another amazing speaker who is not only just here to speak about what she's doing, but she's also enacting what she's doing, and I love that. So I want to make sure that I encourage everyone to listen to her podcast and everyone else's podcasts that are posted on the website. These people are giving some really good information, and I want to encourage you to take advantage of this unique opportunity. Just in case you did not know, the purpose of the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast is to network our small businesses, share information, as well as provide needed information for career seekers or new job career seekers out there, because we can always use information about how we can enhance and improve our professional status. I would also like to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors, which are a family of authors, Butler Armstead Consulting Solutions, Human Resource Learning Center, JNF Enterprises, and Women Offering Wealth, along with our business partners and sponsors for helping to make this event a success. So I would like to, just make one quick comment before I introduce our next speaker, and that is about social work. I worked in healthcare for a couple of organizations several years back, and there were a lot of social workers where I worked that service children and families and offered different type of social services. I know I said services twice in that sentence, but what I really liked about social work is that for me, I felt that it was one of the most satisfying industries, and that's what motivated me to do what I'm doing today. They are actually helping people, whether they wanted the advice or not. It was still a service that was provided to them that was going to help them obtain a better outcome. And so no matter what the issue is that they're facing, if you're able to help someone and change someone's life, that is just the way to go. And I've always admired people who are in the social work industry. So today, our guest speaker, who is not only a graduate of college recently to get her degree, but she also wrote a book about some of the problems of social work. So with that, I would like to introduce Candice Kachapa, and I hope I pronounced that right.
You got it. You
And
got it.
okay, and she's a native of Canada, Toronto, Canada. Okay,
That's
she
right.
holds a Master's of Social Work degree from York University in Toronto, Canada, and she is an emerging researcher who's interested in looking at the issues of race relations in Canada specifically. She is an affiliate of the Global Labor Research Center in York University, where she continues to develop her theories and approaches to the issues of race relations in Canada. There's a paper that she's written, which she's going to talk to us about, which is entitled The Politics of Social Work. Do Rationalized Social Workers Belong in the Practice Space of Public Policy Development? And this article has gotten so much attention that it's been in several magazines, and she's also spoken about it, and it's also being considered for other type of publications, which is popular in Canada. So with that, I would like to introduce Candice to the podcast, because I would like for her to kind of break this down and really get into the meat of, what is really going on about social work in Canada.
Hi everyone. I am so happy to be on this podcast today with Anne to talk about social work and to talk about the politics of social work. Um, Really, where this came from, where the idea of writing this article came from, um, started in my undergraduate year, I think, in my final year of undergrad, where what I realized in as I was doing my Bachelor of Social Work was that there weren't a lot of people who looked like me in terms of their race identity, who were moving on to political engagement using their social work education as their platform. And so it really started to impress upon me that this is an area of the social work mandate that is being neglected in Canada, and therefore I felt that it was a responsibility of mine as a social worker to fulfill that mandate and to bring forward visibility for other racialized social workers to see politics and public policy development as an area that is a specific practice area and can be an accessible practice area for them as well, and for advocacy purposes for the people who we do work with. And I liked your introduction where you said, you started out doing some social work, and you were inspired by what we do, and in whatever capacity we were working with people, whether they accepted our advice or not. Our goal is to help people, and for me, what we call here in Canada, we call macro or institutional social work, or structural social work. It's of the same essence. It's simply though working with institutions and policies rather than working with individuals and families. So
Okay.
that's the level of practice that I'm pursuing currently.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so let me ask you a question. How did you stumble on the Pacific problem itself? I mean, what was it that clicked in your mind that there was an issue in that realm?
I think I would say from second year of undergrad, I noticed for the most part that all my professors were white, and it is not a slight on any race in particular, but this is a consistent trend that I noticed. And for my area that I was really wanting to focus on, there was no visible mentor in that position. And I started to feel kind of jilted because I felt like the only option for me is to do frontline social work. And I have more than 12 years of frontline social services experiences. I've worked in many different variations of agencies, from working with children to adults, across the spectrum. And although I loved the work and I loved the clients, I felt like there was an area of advocacy that was always missing, and that particularly for people of color, people were falling through the cracks because social workers and social service workers and workers who give care were not pursuing this area of advocacy. It was always empty for people of color. So that is what kind of clicked for me at that point, and I started to think of creative ways of trying to bring more visibility to the fact that this is an area of advocacy that is being neglected, and how do we then engage, especially as people of color, how do we engage to create more access to public policy and policy development as a specific niche in social work.
Okay, so then that leads to my next question is, why do you think there's such a gap in the African American community in Canada to pursue a career in social work where there is a need?
Honestly, before I speak specifically to the gap for Black social workers, I'm going to speak to the absence for social workers in general in public policy development. My research actually points to a larger systemic problem here in Canada about the actual pedagogy of social work and how the curriculum is structured. This is again, according to my thesis, how the social work curriculum in Canada is structured to funnel social workers mainly into frontline centric roles. So not positioning social workers or preparing social workers to access even management level type learning opportunities or preparation for leadership. It's within the last, I would say, within the last 3 to 5 years that most schools of social work here in Canada have actually started to move towards leadership focused social work curriculums. And
Okay,
so,
just to
mhm,
kind of tie in just a little bit. So there's a front line position where I'm just trying to understand the difference between the front line and the leadership. Where in front line, is that just to say that you're actually working directly with the families, but you don't
directly.
have any room for growth to the leadership
Absolutely.
role? Is that okay? I just want to make
Absolutely.
sure that's what you meant.
For
Okay.
sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And so, so what I've noticed is that when you finish your degree, you spend 4 years in school, and when you finish your degree and you're off to the working world, it's a dead end position where individual focused or family focused, and there is no opportunity for advancement there, right? And for the most part, most social workers are happy with that. That is their goal, is to, the security is in knowing that I have a position. It's permanent. It's full time. I have benefits. I'm going to be economically okay. But my argument for that, um, I would say that kind of limiting view is that you're not fulfilling the entire scope of the mandate of social work, according to the code of conduct, according to the principles of practice of social work itself, right? And then to make it more specific to the problem of black men and women in social work, looking at policy development or policy practice as a specific area for their practice, what I found, again, speaking from my own experience and speaking, and again, from what my research supports and other researchers have found as well, is that there is not a visible representation, enough of a visible representation of people of color in those positions of leadership, in those positions of influence, and offering mentorship opportunities to upcoming other social workers of color to say, hey, these are the areas that I had successes in. These are the areas that I struggled in. These are the opportunities that were available for me, and now I'm opening up those opportunities to you as well. So that, for me, is the biggest barrier, and I also believe, considering the people who participated in some of my research, those were some of the issues that they were finding too about pursuing policy practice as a specific area of advocacy for them.
Okay. So
Hmm.
basically, just to make sure I understand that because of the lack of leadership or growth potential, there's a lot of, misconception about whether or not people want to pursue that career. But I
Correct.
guess I guess my only comment back to that is the bigger picture. The
Mhm.
bigger picture
Mhm.
of helping people in the community, and then
Mhm.
by coming together and really dominating that industry, I believe those opportunities will come. But
Absolutely.
but if no one is pursuing that career, then there's no value or justification of, for a leadership
Absolutely.
position. And I think people need to see both sides of the coin on that.
That's
Um,
true.
yeah, I really do believe that it's bigger than you when you are a social worker. At least that's just, and just kind of just to let you know, I wasn't a social worker, but I worked in healthcare field as an
Oh, okay.
IT
Yeah.
professional. But I worked closely with the social workers because a lot of times what I had to do or work with them on involved them working with the client in terms of record
Mhm.
keeping and security and managing
Right.
HIPAA documents and all that. But
Yeah.
what I found was what I liked about it was the satisfaction of someone being able to get out of a current situation. And because
Mhm.
I like helping people, that inspired me to start looking into doing stuff that I can give back, because of
For
the nature
sure.
of that job. And I want to
Mhm.
encourage people who's listening to this podcast that social work is one of those things that you really, if you're a person that loves to empower that or help someone or to inspire
Mhm.
someone, this is a perfect industry for you to be in.
Absolutely.
I would not, hesitate to say, well, look, I may not be a manager or a senior social worker, but if enough of us is creating jobs in this industry, there is room to grow, but we
Oh,
have to be able
definitely.
to get into the industry. So I noticed on your bios that you're taking this article to the next level on a national level. Tell me a little bit about
Mhm.
that.
So when I first wrote this article, to be honest with you, the inspiration came, like I said, um, in my last year of undergrad into my master, and I used it as the framework for my master thesis, and it came from a researcher in Tel Aviv, Israel. Her name is Dr. Edith Weisgau, and she actually did a study called Publishing Voice. And Publishing Voice was pretty much creating an elective classroom workshop program for social workers, specifically to teach them how to engage in policy development and political activism and activities. And so when I read that article and I saw how much aligned my ideas were with Dr. Weisgau's, I thought, hmm, here is an opportunity to build on this work. When I was going through the interview process, trying to gather participants, one of the things I realized was that there is interest. There's definite interest from people of color, racialized social workers here. But like I was experiencing, these people were experiencing the same thing in just a provincial level, right? I'm in the province of Ontario, and I just had interviewed people from my province, and I actually had a conversation with another professor at another university in the capital region, and he had tried to conduct a similar study, but he was looking actually at social work professors or social work teachers across the spectrum of social work, and he could not get enough participants to fulfill the study requirement. Right?
Wow.
There were just not enough social work professors who were doing social policy practice or policy practice in general to be able to complete the study. And so when I finished the politics of social work, I was presenting it at several different conferences. I did 4 conferences here in Canada. I did one in the States so far, and I'm going to be doing another one in Canada next month. When I started to travel and talk a little bit more about the research, what I realized is that there is a need for this work. There's a need for people of color who are social workers, who are engaging on the frontline level, working directly with clients, working directly with families, and building communities who have that experience to take that experience into the policy writing and policy implementation roles, right? Because
Okay.
not only are you experiencing with the family that you're working with, but you're also taking anecdotal notes about what's happening, and that firsthand experience and firsthand knowledge of working directly with the clients can be translated into more humane policy documents and policy expectations and policy implementation. So at the national level, I thought, well, if the need is so great provincially, and we know that there are always issues of, you know, discrimination and racism and those things. If those things are predominant narratives that I'm seeing at the provincial level, I can only imagine, considering all the other things that go into it, what the picture looks like at the national level.
Wow.
Mhm.
That is a lot. I don't even know what to say because I'm gonna tell you, I'm still stuck at the fact that you said it wasn't enough people to participate
Right.
in this because that speaks volume. I mean, it really speaks volume because if there is such a need, we need to
Mm,
do a better job to promote that need so that people can fill
absolutely.
jobs. And
Yes.
that's one of the
Yep.
reasons why the podcast exists because if there's somebody listening today who is thinking about getting into social work, this is a really valid reason why you should. You really should. There
Absolutely,
are so many
absolutely,
people that can use your help and your expertise at this time. And as you can hear from Candy, she's pretty much saying there is not enough out there. And you can't let all of these different politics and political issues get in the way of doing that.
for
Um,
sure.
so tell us a little further about, how you're kind of pursuing getting your article published in the different magazines or
Hmm.
journals and some of the things that you are doing to get this message out there.
For sure. So a lot of the work, when we go back, I'll just backtrack a little bit to talk about when I said there wasn't a lot of mentorship and a lot of visible leadership from the Black community in this specific area. So after graduating last October, I thought, okay, I have a wealth of experience through placements and work internships and through connections I'd made over a course of, let's say, three years of school. I thought, guaranteed, as soon as I'm done school, jobs are going to be lined up. I'm going to be a policy analyst, and I'm going to get a $70,000 job right away, and life is going to be good. um, Reality actually hit. And the reality is that the fact that I have a social work degree and the fact that I am a woman and I am a person of color, those are all barriers to employment. And so um, right now, this is 4 or 5 months in, and I still don't have a policy job. And so I had to grapple with, okay, now what do I do? Right? I have to make a living. I have to pay the bills. I have to live a regular life. So what do I do? Um, I've taken the opportunity with the attention that my paper has been getting to promote as much as possible. So um, thank goodness that most of the conferences that I've been invited to have had minimal costs associated with them. So I was able to go ahead and get the message out there, and a lot of people, of course, as you said, are make taking notice. Um, what I'm mainly doing right now is actually trying to bring together scholars and bring together activists and bring together students, people of color who are interested in pursuing public policy development or political social work or anything at the macro level or the structural level where they can get more information. They can see more people who look like them presenting this information and encouraging them to to pursue this area. And right now, I actually spoke earlier today with the director of the Global Labor Research Center and made a proposal about having a conference such as that later this year, where we can invite everyone who's interested to come and have that discussion, have that dialogue, make it accessible for students and everyone who's interested to be able to talk to those thought leaders and talk to those politicians and talk to those stakeholders who can open up those access lines to policy areas. And so that's really where what I've been up to so far, and just continuing to do some more research around employment and education and the labor market and how those things interact, particularly using a critical race theory lens.
First of all, I'd like to applaud the fact that you are reaching out to people who will actually get those folks in the room, because
Mhm.
it is so important. And this is why I do STEM teaching too, because I feel that so anytime that you're doing social work, science, technology, engineering, math, all that, it is so
Mhm.
critical that the African American community and other
Yes.
minorities really embrace STEM, not just talk about it, not just present it, but actually do what you're doing is getting people together that's actually going to make a difference and do something. Yeah, we really have to get in there. And what I would really love to find out later on is that if they do decide to allow this conference, please make sure you get back with me, Candy, so I can post
Mhm.
that on your speaker page because I want people to know about it. That's why I want this podcast to be shared with as many people as possible because if we don't know that there's an issue, we can't fix it. And the more
Definitely.
that we share this type of information, the more people will know about it, the more people will know there's a problem and there's a need.
Mhm.
And it will also spark further interest in your article. And I really encourage you to keep talking and promoting and things of that nature. So with that, this is a networking event, business networking and authors and stuff. So
Absolutely.
what does Candies need to, what do you need that's going to help you further your efforts?
Well, right now, actually, right now, I'll be heading to the UK in July to go and present another article that I wrote on the Black experience of precarious work in social service agencies. And this, again, is along the lines of the realities of what Black people specifically face when they are frontline workers, when they are doing the home care, the personal care, when they're doing the casework in the schools, when they're doing the casework in the nursing homes and wherever they are. And it actually looks at the experiences on a concrete level. The barriers that exist to prevent Black workers from climbing that corporate ladder, quote unquote. Um, and so it was invited for presentation. My paper was invited for presentation in the UK. And so what I'm looking for actually is conference travel support. So if there's any businesses or any institutions, academic institutions that do offer conference support funding, that would be something that would really help me to advance this topic and get people to pay attention a little bit more. So that's really the big ask for me right now. And also, just if anyone's interested, like I'm open to having discussions and really I want to bring more visibility to these issues. I want people to understand that your point of view matters and the experiences that you've gone through in life matter. And just because your community might not think that your opinion is valuable doesn't mean that everybody feels that way. Um, for me, what I experienced at going through university was that it takes just one person to kind of, you know, pick their head up out of their phone or the computer or whatever it is that they're doing and kind of take notice for your idea to kind of take off. And that's really what I experienced. One professor took notice and was like, "Hey, you have something here. We should do something with it." Um, and then all of a sudden, it's almost like the heavens opened and here it is. This platform is here. Um, so really, it's just being able to connect with more people, being able to bring about that the importance of the message, and creating access for other people who might have been blocked previously.
Okay, so I would like to ask you one more question. What piece of advice would you give fellow college students or new college students about entering the social work field or maybe even considering going to college? What advice would you give someone, being though you had just recently received your master's degree?
hmm Um, the first thing I would say is go to school. Get an education. No matter what it is, you don't have to choose social work. Just make sure you go to school because once you have that education, it's empowering. It's helping you shape a part of you that may not be developed otherwise, right? The other thing is that if you are going into social work, make sure you decide what your passion is. I can only speak about policy practice because that's my passion. That's an area where I feel like, um, you know, it's something that is absolutely vital to the proper functioning of society and to the mandate of social work. That's just my passion. But if you're going into social work, anybody who's listening, you're going into social work, choose what is your passion, and regardless of how social work does get hectic, at times it depends on who your clientele is, but the reality of it is rewarding work. At the end of the day, you're leaving, you're going home feeling like I did the best I could, even if the outcome wasn't what you expected or what you were looking for. Um, you still did what you felt was necessary and what was within your capacity to help that person or that family or that community. So um, choose your passion and go get it. That's my hashtag. Go get it.
Awesome. Go get it. Go get it. It's like, just
Go
do
get
it.
it.
All right. Well, you know what, Candice, I would like to thank you very much for coming on the podcast today and sharing with everyone about your article. It is definitely something that everybody should take the time to read. If you want to send that to me, I'll make sure that I'll post that article on your speaker page so that everybody can see this article. So
Mhm.
thank you for being on the podcast today.
I also wanted to share that I actually created a 5 week um training policy practice workshop for
Oh, yeah.
specifically for social workers, right? So I'm available to come in and do that workshop with anybody who's interested. They can connect with me through the website, through your speaker page, or they can connect with me directly. I'm on Twitter and Facebook. I'm pretty much trying to be everywhere right now. So I'm just trying to be as accessible as possible to as many people as possible.
Right. And no worries because her information will be listed down below. And again, please take the time to visit every single speaker's page and listen to their podcast. And also reach out to them because they are here waiting to network with you. And so, with that, I would like to thank Candice for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Anne, for having me. Thank you, everyone.